the work of an Iowa-based organization, Bailing Out Benji, kind of helped spark this investigation. Can you tell me about that?
That resolution filed in King County Superior Court requires the company to pay the state $3.75 million with interest.
Bailing Out Benji regularly looks through these records of dogs' movement from state to state.
Bailing Out Benji
played a key part in unraveling a nationwide puppy scheme.
Bailing Out Benji,
an organization that's been working across the country to stop the pipeline of puppy mill breeders.
Bailing Out Benji.
I will use my voice because they don't have one, and I will keep doing it until there are no more puppy mill dogs. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bailing Out Benji's podcast, Truth, Lies, and Puppy Mills. I almost forgot the title.
For a second, I thought you were like, what are we called again?
Like, what are we doing this morning? It's so early. I'm sitting here. I'm Mindi. I'm sitting here with Kristen, Petty, and Alexis Bell, and we are going to be talking about our map. The map that we were kind of complaining about a few episodes ago. Like, it had only had a few thousand. We were excited it only had a few thousand views, but in the first week, how many views did it get, Alexis?
Oh, God. I don't know a number, but it was thousands. It
was 25,000.
25,000. Oh my God! I
in 1 week.
number.
Yeah.
No.
Oh gosh.
I didn't know if you remember 25,000 in 1 week.
No. Wow. Yeah. That's so exciting. As a small organization, you know, like seeing our stats, what they were before, and then releasing this project and just seeing it explode in the way that it did, seeing the Facebook responses, like our Facebook post exploded too, like thousands of comments, thousands of interactions, and that's so exciting, especially when we see like our other posts are like, oh, it's our main base like interacting, and then to see all of that, we're like, oh, that's like new people that don't usually engage with us. Like that's new people seeing what we're doing.
That's what I liked seeing was it getting out into places where we haven't been, or in front of people who haven't seen this work.
Yeah. You mean like breeders who email us and say, hey, I'm licensed and I don't see myself on your map. Can you add me?
Yeah, that was surprising. And that just sets a marker for like how well received this project has been, is like that even like the breeders aren't mad. They want to be on it. Well, I'm sure that it makes some people mad, but that was kind of exciting for you to get that email and to share it with us, to say like, oh, there's actually a breeder that wants them to be on there. And I think that kind of shows too the fact that there are a difference between unethical breeders and like responsible breeders who actually are like proud of the work they're doing, and they want to advertise like, hey, I'm not like those other guys, like I'm doing good, and kind of want to get my name out there. So that's very interesting. That was a very interesting email for you to receive.
Yeah, no, but I love it. And like the map itself, we mentioned it at the end of the episode, but like people are using it and then going to our website and then clicking on the USDA's website to look up the reports themselves, or clicking on Iowa's website to look it up themselves. And so it hopefully in the long term will take work away from us, because we'll get fewer emails from people who are just like, what can you tell me about my breeder? At least now we have a place for them to start finding those questions, and then we can help with all the follow-up afterwards.
Yeah, and it's a great tool, as we wanted it to be, a research tool for people, so that little base foundation for them to start researching, because I mean, we can't be everywhere. We can't always answer all of it. Well, we try to answer all of the questions, but it's nice to have a tool out there now that people can kind of like start that research on their own, and then we're here as like a supporting factor if they need more information, or they just don't know how to go beyond like the inspection reports or beyond these websites. We're there to help, but really this is something that the general public should know what to do. They should be able to do their research, and now we're helping build that foundation for them to be able to do their own research. So it's great.
And it came out like right before, like June is a very busy event month for us. And so it was fun to have it kind of released into the wild at that time, because then as I have been at events in June and telling people about it, so we have a laminated kind of image of the map, which does you no good, because the interactive of it is the amazing part. So we have that on the table and we can tell people like, here's what it is. And some folks will pull it up on their phones and start looking.
Because it's got a little QR code.
That you can get right to it. But even those who were just telling about it, the response from just the general public has been so good, and people so glad to have a tool like this and telling us their stories about trying to, like, for whatever their reason was, they wanted to buy from a breeder or needed to buy from a breeder, and talking about the frustrations of the process and trying to find good information.
Yeah.
So those stories have been abundant since we started these conversations about this interactive map, is hearing people be like, oh my gosh, like, here's what I had to go through, or here's what I ended up doing, or whatever. So that's been fun to be able to not only release it and see the Facebook interactions and the website links, but then to actually get it in front of live humans and talk to them about it and see how just people outside the animal welfare are like, yes, this is what we need.
And like, the map is for the general public, but advocates can use it too. And that's something that no one's had access to before. Like, generally speaking, people in our space know how to access the USDA website.
Yeah.
But it's not easy to use. Kristen, if I were to give you the link and say, find a breeder on this link, you would put too much information in. Like, so there are so many boxes on the USDA's website: name, customer name, city, address. If you knew all of that and you were to fill it all in perfectly, the USDA would tell you the user doesn't exist because you put too much information in.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to create something that people not only had instant access to the inspection records on the federal level, but we put all those state violations in too, and no one has instant access to state inspection records.
Because that's, for those who don't know, that's type of information that we have to FOIA or we have to pay for. We pay a lot for it, yes. And so that's not accessible to the public. And so we, as an organization, we're happy to take on that cost and be able to provide that transparency and go through thousands of documents, because it's not only they're expensive to get, but also timely, which is also like a resource as well, because it takes us a lot of time to go through that, and just the general public wouldn't be able to have access to these. So this really is a one-of-a-kind database that pulls all this information into one place so that people don't have to do the guesswork. They don't have to try and front the cost of just getting some type of inspection report from a state. So it's, I think that's pretty neat about this.
Right. And when you pair the website with, like, say, our protesting teams or teams in Connecticut, Arizona, where is Pierce County, Washington, Colorado, these are locations where the stores have to disclose their breeder on the kennel. They have to put a USDA number. Sometimes it's also on the website. In Connecticut, they have sourcing laws where you can't buy from breeders with violations. So if you're a consumer and you're walking in, they can now look up that breeder in our database and say, well, actually, they do have violations. And so it's just a powerful tool for consumers in those specific instances to be able to say, okay, well, now I have the full picture.
Yeah, I think that's pretty exciting too, to just have that information right away and not have to go like, oh, I'm here and I don't want to leave and do my research. It's like, oh, you're there, and then you have this very easy tool that you can do your research right here, right now.
It's never going to happen. But can you imagine if pet stores were so confident in who they bought from that they were like, here's Bailing Out Benji's link. Go ahead and look up the breeder and you'll see. Email them and you'll see, right? Like Devon said in his interview, like, we're to the point now where they can't hide, right? You shouldn't do business with anyone who is not telling you who they also do business with. And I think that our tool helps provide even more transparency on that front, because instantly the stores can look up if their breeder has violations. There's no longer an excuse for you to be buying from problematic facilities. We have put everything out there for you to just look it up.
So means we can start holding people accountable. This map's a great tool, and with the data that we used for this map, we're able to hold people accountable with something we just released as well, was our national averages. So being able to apply that pressure of like, who actually is pandering into those like bad actors and who's actually being supplied from ethical breeders. That's pretty neat.
Right. And that was kind of like our attempt at bringing some kind of data to this conversation. Yes. Because right now, the only number people have is still 10,000 puppy mills. Yeah. And we laugh about it, right? Because we know that that is not rooted in any sort of reality. No. Again, we're tracking thousands of breeders, and nothing matches that 10,000 number. We can't find anything that correlates. No. But these national averages, we're able to say, 41% of the breeders that are licensed across our country had violations in 5 years. That means in another 5 years, we could track it every year if we wanted.
Yeah.
In another year, we can track it again and see, the way we can pull our data is so fun. We can do it weekly if we wanted
Yeah.
to. But we get to measure this progress now for the first time ever.
Yeah. It's like something that the public, once again, hasn't had access to. I think that's so neat about our organization is we're able to produce things that haven't been provided to people but are such essential tools in talking about the puppy mill industry, the commercial breeding industry, pet store industry, all of it wrapped in one. Like these are actual facts that are helpful rather than that 10,000 puppy mill number, which we've said before of like, why does that matter? Like, what does it add to this conversation? Whereas like focusing on the national averages of like, hey, 41% of the breeders supplying to pet stores are getting violations, like, hey, that's a problem. So that's a problem area we can actually focus on because that's a number that really matters, and like we want to see that number sink. And I guess you could say the same thing. We want to see that 10,000 puppy mill number sink, but like when it's not a real number, like how do you know if it's even working? Because that number's been used for, I think we've discussed in another podcast, over a decade, like, and that hasn't changed. So it's not really a good data point to be using right now in these conversations of showing progress. So the data that we're able to pull is exciting in the way that we can see progress, or we could see
a backslide.
But it's all traceable, because what we do, the research we pull, are government documents. We're forensically auditing all these government documents. It's straight from them. Can't be argued with because that's the data that it is, and it can be independently verified. So people can trust in the fact that this is the real landscape of the problem, and which has never been like advertised before or accurately put out. So hopefully this gives people perspective. This tool is able to give people perspective of what the real problem is and the real scope of the problem.
Well, that kind of leads me into, I don't think we planned on really talking about this today, but like our pet store articles, or I'll say our business articles, because we kind of do lots of different ones. But right now you're working on updating our pet store articles. And even that's kind of changed over the last like 5 years.
Yeah.
We used to list every pet store in the country and every single dog breeder they bought from. The pro of that scenario is we are providing complete transparency. So we are not making any accusations. But there will be a pet store that buys from 130 breeders. And so we have to manually type out all of this information over and over and over again for these 600 pet stores in the country that we're tracking, right? It's like, it was too much work. And so a few months ago, Alexis, you really started like deep thinking about how we could redo that and still get the important information out there.
Yes. Yeah. We just kind of wanted, well, I think this came in with the idea too of like, we're really trying to be intentional with our work. We're trying to minimize harm in ways, and so focusing on pet stores and like maybe the problematic or concerning breeders that they're buying from became the main focus for these articles rather than listing out everybody, because sometimes they buy from unlicensed people, they buy from smaller scale breeders with no violations, and for the public it's like what value does that add for them to know? What's really important for them to know? Well, it's pet stores buying from consistently breeders with violations or with problematic histories. And so we really wanted to formulate these articles to fit that and just highlight the problem areas for the general public. Because when we can pinpoint where the problem areas are, we know directly how to fix it, what solution should come next. So like, oh, this pet store is buying from 60% of breeders with violations. That's kind of a problem. Maybe the next step would be passing legislation that regulates what type of breeders they're buying from, because I think that's more of the targeted way of fixing the solution, is going after those bad actors, both on the pet store end and the irresponsible breeder end. Following the data in the way that we are and highlighting these articles to be more intentional about where the problem areas are will help the public understand, well, maybe this isn't a place that I should buy from. Maybe this isn't a place I should give my money to. And maybe this is a place that should be targeted in the sense of they need to change their practices or they need to get out of business if they can't change those practices. So these articles are hopefully transformed in a way of not overwhelming, once again, people with a bunch of information, but really highlighting problem areas and giving people intentional information that's still accurate, but allows them to understand the scope of the situation.
Yeah. And that's been the whole goal, is to provide tools for people to make the right decision, because we are never going to be in the store next to somebody being the parrot on their ear saying, okay, don't do that, don't do that. So it's like, what can we do ahead of time to try and reach as many people as possible?
I think this also speaks to what makes Bailing Out Benji unique from a lot of people in this space, is that we are committed to ending unethical breeding. We're not committed to a narrative or to a movement. So we've gotten a lot of flack for being okay with good breeders. We are supposed to think all breeders are puppy mills. And we will say, no, if you're doing it ethically, you're good. Now it's that same conversation with pet stores, right? So there's a big movement that's like, no pet store should be selling an animal. We can allow, if you are sourcing from ethical breeders, transporting ethically, the dogs are being treated humanely, they're not in the store for very long. We're not going to say every pet store should be shut down. Is that accurate? Am I misspeaking?
No, I think that what you're saying is, in a perfect world, something like that could exist. And it's like our conversation we had after Devon's episode. When we visit these kennels, we see how good it can be. We see breeders that are trying to do it the best of the best. So now we know how bad it gets and what that really means about those facilities that are not caring about their dogs. So it's same on the pet store level, right? And that's what you're getting at. It's like the pet stores could do all of these things. They could stop predatory financing. They could stop buying from puppy mills. They could stop all of these problem areas. And a lot of them most of them are choosing not to, right? And we see that with our data. And so could there be a perfect world, a perfect system that exists? Maybe someday. But right now, it doesn't seem like there's even an appetite for the stores to want to. And an argument could be made that that's because of bans, right? If they're going to get banned either way, why upgrade? You're going to get called a puppy mill either way, why upgrade? So we might see some movement where pet stores try to take steps to do that.
And that's where I think that our commitment to education is the game changer. Because as we educate breeders about those stores, we've seen with this map, with breeders asking to be put on it, we've seen that those breeders do not want to be associated with puppy mills. They're proud of the work they do. So as we educate them more about, hey, did you know that this store that you're selling through is also selling through puppy mills? They're putting pressure on the stores. And as we educate consumers, we, in a conversation this week with a group of colleagues, we heard about the irresponsible dog owners and the irresponsible people that buy from pet stores. And I don't think they're irresponsible people buying from pet stores. I think they're uneducated people buying from pet stores. I think that if they knew, they would not want to support it. I just think they don't know. There's a disconnect between pet stores and puppy mills. There just is. I'm in a clean store with happy puppies. I don't see a problem here. So that education piece, as consumers are educated, then that puts pressure on pet stores. And pet stores are businesses. They're there to make money. And whatever is threatening their money-making capacity, they will change. And I still have a lot of questions about whether a pet can be kept humanely in a store, in a retail establishment. That's a whole other conversation for another day. But to say that it can't, there's still people out there saying a dog breeder cannot be ethical, period, full stop. And I don't believe that. So I also can't then let myself believe that a pet store can't be ethical, full stop. There's got to be a way something can be done to make this an ethical arrangement. But either way, it's that in our work, we are going to focus on that research and that education to end inhumane practices. We talked the other day about, commercials that show sad dogs and are just like, send us money to feed these sad dogs. And I'm like, wait, why are the dogs sad? like, I don't want to send you money just to feed those dogs. Why are those dogs in those cages? What are you doing? And it's just a fundraising off of sad dogs. And we're not going to do that ever. Like, so we could hold to some of those narratives that breeders are bad, pet stores are bad, we need to end all of this. And but where the data goes, we follow.
Yeah.
And then we are committed to getting that information to the people making the decisions and changing the system that way versus just 10,000 puppy mills for decades and asking people to react to that.
And again, with these percentages that we're following, one of the percentages off the top of my head, I think it's 63% of the stores in the country that are actively selling puppies have bought from breeders with violations in the last 3 years. So it's like, okay, what can be done to reduce that number? And that's, again, something we can measure every single year. The number will fluctuate because of closures and new stores opening, all of that stuff, they're variables. But we'll be able to really track pet stores buying from puppy mills. We'll be able to track puppy mills selling online to brokers. Like, we now have such a sophisticated way of tracking all of this stuff that we can measure progress. And then we can point to that and really try to direct where the change is going, what laws need passed. If veterinary care is the top USDA violation, then we need to do something about that specific thing. Let's talk about that and get that fixed.
Yeah. I think this specific data, giving us a target to focus on. And it's something that, like, I think that the public finds more trustworthy than talking in those, like, definitives, like, all, most. That's not really anything tangible or, like, based in fact, but this is. And so I think that the public is starting to really realize what is true and what is just maybe opinion and propaganda to get them to react. And that's not something that we want to play into, and that's why we focus so heavily on the data and why we want to focus on these specific problems that we can quantify with data, is because the public can trust that that is actually an avenue that we can take to accomplish the goal of ending inhumane breeding. It's not just, I'm just giving you this opinion about what I guesstimated to be the issue. This is actually a target, and this is actually what's happening.
I think that's a huge point, because I think that as the culture of the country has changed, it used to be 30, 40 years ago, we had trusted sources. So you trusted the big organizations and you trusted the big corporations and you trusted the news sources.
Blindly trusted.
Yes. And I mean, it was a different world. So when they said something, you were like, okay, they are the experts, they know. And now we are very much in this culture of anyone can say anything.
Oh, yeah.
And so you don't trust those things anymore. So those kinds of narratives that used to work just don't anymore. That's not where we are.
No.
And people are craving actual facts that they can verify, and craving that education to make their own decisions versus just taking the advice of an organization or whatever. So I think that's really crucial to acknowledge that this is not the same country it was 20, 30 years ago.
No. Yeah.
And we have to adapt to that if our mission is to fix this problem, we have to make those moves when needed.
Which is why it baffles me that no one is focused on online puppy mills.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't just mean like talking about them, because since we've been doing this the last year, we've noticed all of the national organizations, a lot more local organizations are also saying, and online puppy mills. It's like, don't buy from pet stores or online puppy mills. So we're seeing that more out there, but no one is even trying to get to the bottom of what's going on. And I get it. It's, oh my God, there are so many websites. There are so many unlicensed breeders, unlicensed sellers, we'll say.
Massive undertaking.
And we're still going through this online sleuthing project. And we have, I think, 400 breeders right now in our list that we need to file complaints on. And so it's me and Alexis and Rosie. We do something called
And Allie, shout out to Allie, our volunteer, who is a superstar on this project.
And we're doing Complaint Fridays, right? So we are sitting and we are like trying to get all of these breeders into compliance. And we have to do it slowly because we know we are flooding these departments.
Honestly, I don't think I told you this. When you first told me you all were doing Complaint Fridays, I literally thought the three of you were getting together to complain about this process. Like, this is so much, like, we've got to get together for a vet session. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're actually filing complaints. That's so much more productive.
I mean, we also complain while we're filing complaints.
Two things can can be true.
But yeah, like it's like, okay, if we're talking about ending puppy mills, who's out there looking for them? There's a phenomenal rescue in Tennessee, and I don't want to even get their name wrong. They're ARC, but they're in Tennessee, which does not have breeding laws. And they will find a puppy mill in the woods with 300 dogs, and they have to shut that place down, and they have to get the dogs off the property. And those are the dogs that were living in rabbit hutches in the woods. So when we're talking about puppy mills, everyone's focus has always been on the licensed USDA breeders and putting pressure on the ones who aren't doing it well. Valid. We should.
Yeah.
But our organization is the only one combing these websites, looking for those Tennessee breeders out in the middle of nowhere. How are they selling? It's not through the pet store. We haven't seen any of that data.
No.
So now we have to find these unlicensed people out in the middle of nowhere, try to determine if they need a license, and then get as much information. We have to find addresses. We have to do all this stuff to file complaints, to bring them into compliance, to make the lives of those dogs better. It's not a perfect system, but you can't just call the sheriff on thousands of unlicensed breeders and hope that the sheriff is going to stumble upon cruelty, right? And then something happens. No, we have to follow the protocol. But we're the only ones looking at online puppy mills, online breeders.
And at least getting those people on someone's radar, like literally putting them on the map by getting them the license.
Literally.
So then there's some oversight, and then the process can begin to file complaints.
And that's an important distinction I want to say. You said putting them on the map, which we literally do. So the map...
I was pretty proud of that. We're actually putting them on the map.
Yeah, no, the first iteration is all licensed breeders. But we have had people ask, like, are you going to put unlicensed breeders on? Like, what's the plan? And our plan is to figure out how to safely do that.
Yes.
Because there are so many. I mean, we're tracking thousands of unlicensed breeders. Just because they don't have a license doesn't mean you, Kristen, shouldn't be able to look them up in our search engine to see what we know about them. Because that's still scary, right? Like these people, whether or not they need a license, depending on the state and circumstance, it's important for the public to also know that. So we're going to have a future iteration, hopefully, that also shows more of that. We talked about maybe canceled licensees.
Yes, because they still sell sometimes. Just because they're canceled doesn't mean they're out of business. So,
So what you're seeing on that map is phenomenal.
Yes.
So much work went into it. It is a glimpse of our database. It is a small glimpse of everything we're tracking across the country. And that's what's so exciting.
It's fun to see people's comments when they're like, okay, but what about this? And what about this? And then like, we're like, yeah, we know. Like we're just as excited as you are, but we're like a handful of people with a handful of money. So like, hold on, we're getting there.
Yes. Well, I did want to note too, so it wasn't just the breeder who was like, hey, can I be added? There have been other breeders who have reached out and said, hey, you've got this on my listing. Can you update that? It's not the right number or whatever. And it's like, yes, I can. Thank you. We're not getting people emailing us and being like, I'm going to sue you. Like, no, it's people who are like, I see my information's on your website. How can I get it updated? So, fascinating.
I think it's hard for somebody to reach out and be like, oh my gosh, like, well, is that you? Are those your violations? Is that how many dogs you have? Like, what?
It's things the public should know. And like, we're not saying anything that's untrue or that people can
This isn't an expose.
Exactly. This came from government documents. We're just telling the public what the government's reporting, and if that's wrong, like, you should probably take it up with the department, because that's what it's listed as.
And the breeder can have those conversations with the public. So like we've said in the past, like someone's husband and mom passed away, right? That was a real tough time for them. There will be consumers who understand that and are still okay supporting that kind of breeder. So like, we are providing context for the conversations that should be happening with the person selling you a dog, whether it's a store or online.
Absolutely. To know what questions to ask. You're like, why did you get this violation? Why do you have a clean history? And then all of a sudden you've got some violations like that. That's the backstory you wouldn't get if you didn't know like the information, or it wasn't provided to you in this beautiful tool. Just really trying to bring context. I am going back to like the unlicensed stuff. I am excited for us to go on to that phase, because looking at the unlicensed breeders, it tells a completely different story from the licensed breeders. And that's something that's lacking from the conversation, once again, about other states that look like they don't have a lot of licensed breeders, but actually they have a lot of breeders. They're just not licensed because of certain regulations, because they fly under the radar and nobody's looking at them. So as the watchdog group we're going to look into it, and then we're going to provide that information to the public. So once again, they get the full scope of information. And that's just really what we're trying to do with this interactive map, with all the data that we share, the new stats that we share. We just really want people to grasp everything. And we're not going to leave anything out of the conversation because it doesn't fit our narrative, because we don't have a narrative. We're just trying to give everybody the information. So
that's been a good conversation starter with the map too, where people will look at it and be like, there's like no breeders in this state, or there's like only one breeder in that state. And then you can say, well, this is just licensed, either USDA or state licensed. And I'm so glad that we did podcast episode about that, because now I know what that means.
Yes.
And so then I can explain to people. So then again, it's just furthering that education where people are like, well, how can there not be any breeders? Like, well, these are just the state or USDA licensed breeders. And you could explain kind of that distinction. And then they start to understand like, oh, I get it. So these other people can be breeding. And so it's just,
we had a breeder from the Pacific Northwest comment on our TikTok, the video, the funny video we made. And they said, I cannot tell if this is satire because a magic website like this does not exist and breeders don't need a license. And so I commented and I was like, first of all, everything we've said is true.
Yeah.
You are right. A magic website did not exist like this until we created one.
Now.
Guess what? And here's how all the information that's on it, state, USDA, whatever. And the person came back and they were like, oh, well, you didn't say they were commercial breeders. Because we had said license, right? You didn't say they were commercial breeders. Well, they have a really high threshold and all of these dogs and yada, yada. So yeah, of course, they're basically on your map. And so I commented again and I said, well, did you know in the USDA, the threshold is 6. Missouri, the threshold is 3. Iowa, the threshold is 4 for licensure. Like,
that's not large.
That
scale.
is not that large. And so you're leaving because that person didn't have the context that we had. They were leaving out a whole mess of licensed breeders because in their head, licensed meant puppy mill.
Yeah.
And then they never chatted back after I was like, actually,
hopefully that was, seeds were planted and
But the magic website does exist. So that's the point, really the point of that conversation.
Yeah. I love that, our magic website, because it's just.
How does it feel to be like, Alexis, how did you do all this? Magic.
Magic.
No, actually hours and hours of pouring through data.
The darker side, yes. Not quite magic. Lots of time of us updating records, going through thousands of records to make sure that everything was as updated as we could possibly get it, which is hard because if you think about it, like over like the 4,000 licensees, like state USDA, like they're constantly being inspected like at the federal and state level, and so we get lots of documents all the time to go through. So it's hard to keep things updated, but we are trying our best with the few people that we have to go through this to stay updated and give the public as much information as we can in the point of time that we can.
And how often is the map updated?
For now, we're thinking that it's going to be updated every 6 months, and so people can know that there is a little bit of a delay, and it's limited on us because we're very small. We're a very small team, and this takes a lot of effort, and there are also a lot of other things that we're focusing on, but this is a priority because we know it's helpful to the public, but we are a small team with a very heavy workload sometimes, so our goal is every 6 months to get that to people. Eventually, when we get on top of this and we're like peak performance, we're hoping to update quarterly because that's how we update like the USDA inspection reports, and so it would just be nice to have that quarterly update of information as we go.
Yeah. Excellent.
Well, I thought of a funny anecdote while we were chatting. So you had mentioned like not all don't use, that kind of language.
Yeah.
Well, very famously, when we first started out, Bailing Out Benji had a bus ad here in Ames. And it literally said, puppies in the store, walk out the door. Pet store puppies are puppy mill puppies.
Yeah.
I was so proud of this ad. Ames is small. It is running around campus. We had 2 of the ads on 2 buses.
Yeah.
Going right by Divix Pet Shop as we're protesting. Like, people are chasing down the bus to take photos with it, right? I was chasing down the bus every time to take photos with it.
People are you, aren't they? You're people.
Yeah. So a few months in, I get a letter from SciRide, and that's the bus company that the ad was on the side of.
Yeah.
And they're like, can you come into one of our board meetings? We need to discuss your ad. And I was like, oh God. So I had to, at the time, preschool teacher, had to take the morning off to go to a SciRide board meeting with a bunch of businessmen in suits, and then Dale Divig and me. And he is just like,
Dale Divig, the owner of the pet store that you were protesting.
Yes. Yeah. So he had been complaining apparently every month that our ad was a lie and all of the stuff that it entails. Long story short, one of the other board members, he owned like a burrito company in town. One of the guys was like, Matt, if Mindi wants to put a bus ad up that says burritos in the store, walk out the door, she can. Like, it's free speech. So the reason I'm telling this story is we compromised.
Yeah.
And we added the word some. Some pet store puppies come from puppy mills. That was our compromise at the time. But the funniest thing is now every single ad SciRide has on the side of their bus, there's a note that says SciRide does not endorse this ad. And that's because of yours truly. We are creating policy changes all over the country.
Yes.
Yeah. I happen to know the people who do the signs for SciRide now, and they were laughing about that little note. It is on every sign now.
You are
No
a legal liability.
Yeah.
We must protect ourselves.
But like, that's again though, like, we believed all, and in that case, he only bought from 2 places and they were both horrific.
Right,
so there are instances where we are factually correct in saying all of the dogs from this store are coming from a bad place. There's a place in Iowa too, a breeder with hundreds of dogs and violations owns his own pet store. So of course he's not buying from puppy mills, he's buying from himself.
Yeah.
So like, there are always going to be those instances.
You can say
but
all the puppies in this store are from puppy mills. You can't say all the puppies in every pet store are from puppy.
Especially when you don't have the data to back that up, because then someone can go and verify it, and then they're like,
Right.
oh, but that's not true, and then you lose
All credibility.
Yeah.
Well, for our volunteers and for anyone listening, we actually did create a little flyer for our events, but kind of with our protesting teams in mind.
Yeah.
So it's a QR code flyer. One part of it says research before you buy, basically, and the other is here's how you contact us if you encounter a puppy mill. If you bought a sick dog, here's how you can reach out to us. And so we do provide all those materials for free. If anyone's listening and wants to help us get the map out in their community, and they can hang the flyers up or just hand them out.
Yeah. Go to your gas station, hang them up, your vet clinic,
Coffee
shops, yeah, pizza places, yeah.
And other than that, we have our gala.
Yes.
Our gala's coming up very quickly.
Yep, we're in full gala planning mode for the end of September.
This week we're coming up with a menu, so it's exciting. Love food. But
we
all
have
of that's to say,
sponsorships rolling in. We've got ticket sales started. Yeah.
So if you're planning on coming, get your tickets early. That helps us plan for who's coming. But also, we are at a new venue, and it's going to be slightly different, slightly smaller. So make sure that you're on the list before the seats are gone.
Yeah, I think we have a special like VIP time too. So if you wanted to come and talk to the team, meet with us, if you have questions about anything we've been doing lately, we'd love to see you. And I think it's the first half hour before the event. Our time is all yours, so come and talk to us.
And we did that because if you've been to the gala, you see flashes of us go by as we are running to put out some fire. We're trying to do the tech. We're trying to do all of it. And so if you want our time and you want to actually have good conversation without us being like, oh, hold on, I have to run in and deal with this issue, that's a really good time to just meet our team. And we'll have our Volunteer of the Year there, which we'll talk about soon. And hopefully some of our teams coming in as well. That'll be a part of that. So. But anyway, if you are interested, the link will be in our show notes. So please sponsor us, buy a ticket, something. We'd love to see you in Des Moines on September 20th.
Yeah, and we always say when we talk about the map, if you find it useful, you find it innovative, there's a click to donate button on the map too. You can, there's lots of ways to show your love for the work, and we love hearing from people about how they're using it and how amazing it is. Like, that's awesome too. But it does take money to put it together. And we've had some folks who have seen it and been like, bravo, and make a donation. So that's always welcome as well. And like I said, we're always looking for recurring donors. That's kind of the sustaining force to everything that we do. So love for folks to consider that as well.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us again this week. We will catch you next time. Bye.